The storm was supposed to be the worst thing that night. It wasn't. The Johnson family thought they had prepared for the hurricane. Windows boarded up, supplies stocked. They huddled in their living room, listening to the wind scream outside. It wasn't their first storm, but something felt different this time. As the wind howled and the rain pounded the roof, the youngest daughter, Lily, stared out through a tiny gap in the boarded window. "I saw something," she whispered. Her parents dismissed it, just shadows from the storm, nothing more. But when Jason, the eldest, took a quick glance through the crack, he froze. A figure, tall, inhuman, was standing in the yard. It wasn't moving with the wind. It was watching them. They locked the doors and windows tighter, but whatever was out there, it wasn't done yet. As the night deepened, the atmosphere in the house grew tense. The wind outside grew louder, as if the storm itself was angry. Then the scratching started, faint at first, barely audible over the wind. But soon they all heard it, the slow drag of something sharp against the boards covering their windows. It wasn't an animal. It was deliberate. Jason's heart pounded as he stared at the walls. "Do you hear that?" he asked, his voice shaking. They all nodded. No one dared move closer to the windows. Then Lily, huddled on the couch, whispered something that made their blood run cold. "They're talking," she said. "They want to come in." The power flickered, then went out, plunging the house into complete darkness. Only the flashes of lightning outside gave them brief moments of visibility. With each flash, the family could see them, shadowy, twisted figures outside the windows. They didn't move with the storm. They moved with purpose, and they were getting closer. Jason grabbed a flashlight, the beam weak and shaky in his trembling hands. He swept it across the hallway, and that's when he saw it, a dark, twisted figure standing right there, in the middle of the hallway. It was tall, humanoid, but its edges were blurred, almost as if it was made of shadow itself. He blinked and it was gone. The flashlight flickered out. Suddenly, the sound of breaking glass filled the air. The kitchen window shattered, and a cold gust of wind rushed into the house, bringing something much worse with it. Dark figures poured in through the broken window, their movements quick, unnaturally fluid, as though they were part of the shadows themselves. They moved across the floor, along the walls, their presence suffocating the room with dread. "Run!" Mark yelled, grabbing Lily's hand and pulling her toward the basement door. The family scrambled down the narrow stairs, slamming the door behind them. They huddled in the cold, damp basement, listening to the sounds above, the scratching, the whispers, the shadows creeping through their home. But they couldn't see them now. For hours they stayed there, breathing heavily, too scared to move. The shadows were still in the house, but the family was trapped. By morning, the storm had passed. The winds died down, and the eerie silence that followed felt like an uneasy calm. The family slowly emerged from the basement, exhausted but alive. The house was wrecked, broken windows, shattered glass, debris everywhere. But worse than that was the feeling that something still lingered. Even in the daylight, there were faint, dark spots in the corners of the rooms, subtle traces of the shadows that had invaded during the night. The storm was over, but they all knew the shadows might never leave.